This is Captain Spud. I'm here at the Miami International Boat Show in the Yamaha booth, and we spend a lot of time talking about how to bring fish up from the bottom. We're going to talk a little bit about how to send fish back down. Each year, recreational anglers catch millions of fish that they have to release, either because they're practicing catch and release or because regulations require those fish to be released. One of the biggest challenges when we catch deep water fish, bring them to the surface, is they can suffer what's called barotrauma. The rapid expansion of gas inside that fish can force the stomach out through the throat. Symptoms include bulging eyes, even the intestines can come out. Obviously, it's very harmful for the fish, creates anatomical damage. It also makes the fish unable to descend back under its own power, makes them more vulnerable to predation. A lot of times these fish are stranded at the surface where the water is hot, and so they undergo some thermal stress. So given the fact that we fishermen are catching as many fish as we are, it's really important that we take responsibility to get those fish back in the water and keep them alive. For years, the preferred method of dealing with this barotrauma phenomena has been venting, which is sticking a hollow needle inside the fish, bleeding the excess gas from the internal organs area so that the fish can recover its equilibrium. The problem is, you can well imagine, not everybody is equally skilled in poking a hole in a fish. And if the hole is put in the wrong place, then the hole does more damage than the actual barotrauma. With me today is Jeffery Liederman. Jeffery is here with Captain Harry's Fishing Supply. Jeffery years ago saw the problem that was happening with barotrauma and high rates of discard mortality, and took it upon himself to invent one of the most technologically advanced and easy to use descending devices. So I've asked him here this afternoon to come talk a little bit about his sequelizer device and how to use it.
Well, a couple years ago, a friend of mine, Patrick Brown, and myself were out fishing and ran into some issues with releasing bottom fish. And with all the issues that were going on across the country between closures on the West Coast in bottom fisheries and closures in our grouper seasons and snapper seasons, and a lot of issues with just closures to overall fisheries in general, we wanted to come up with a way to keep these fisheries open and to give anglers a chance to keep fishing. So what we did was develop a device to help some of these bottom fish that were suffering when they were suffering from the effects of barotrauma. We came up with a device that helped those fish counter the effects of barotrauma. So what we have here is a sequelizer. As opposed to poking a hole in the side of the fish to let that fish back down, we created a pressure-activated device to help that fish get back down underwater.
Yeah, let me hold the microphone for you and you explain how to use it.
So this particular device is pressure-activated. Our standard device does 50, 100, and 150 feet. When you get to your fishing spot, you decide what depth you want to release your fish at, ideally as close to the bottom as possible. So if you're fishing at 120 feet, you would set your device for 100 feet. When the fish that you want to release comes to the surface, you close the device on the fish's jaw and lower him back down underwater. Rather than poking a hole in the fish will be recompressed automatically, shrunk back down to his normal size, and is able to swim away on his own.
Yeah, there's lots of different versions of descending devices out there. This one is obviously very easy to use. It's almost foolproof. Talk a little bit about how to maintain it, how to make sure you keep it in good working order.
Well, as far as the sequelizer go, it's pretty bulletproof. We've got captains using them for 4 or 5 years, and they've got the same device that they've had for those 4 or 5 years. We recommend rinsing them with fresh water and always storing them in the shallowest depth setting. As long as they're stored in the shallowest depth setting, they seem like they hold up forever.
Yeah. One of the other things that's really important about using a descending device is making sure that you have an adequate selection of weights on board the boat for the different sizes of fish that you might encounter. And I believe you've got a 1 pound stick weight here, so that would typically properly descend a fish of approximately what size?
1 pound weight will do a fish up to about 12 pounds. From there, we like to rig our rigs with a loop on it so we can actually pull the one lead off and put a larger lead on if necessary. Most of the times it seems like most fish can be descended with a weight of no larger than 3 pounds.
And that's really important, is it's not only having the descending device, but making sure you have an adequate selection of weights for the variety of fishes you may encounter, which could be groupers that may weigh 40 pounds all the way down to a black sea bass that may weigh 3/4 of a pound. So one of the other important aspects about descending devices, and I mentioned it a little bit earlier, is oftentimes we're pulling fish from cooler waters down deep to warmer waters on the surface. And that in and of itself can create stress that leads to post-release mortality. So the benefits of the descending device are you're recompressing the fish that's suffering bear trauma, you're getting it back down past the predators who are looking at the surface wanting to take advantage of that fish that's struggling, and getting back to the habitat from which it came. Over the last couple of years, Yamaha has supported an effort to distribute descending devices out to the fishing community in the South Atlantic. We've put out several hundred into the hands of fishermen who previously had no experience with descending devices, and now they've used them. They've had a successful experience with them. They're spreading the word to other folks, and we're on the verge. Probably later on this year, you're going to see descending devices be mandated for those folks that are fishing for snapper grouper species in the South Atlantic. So it's going to be really important that folks familiarize themselves with descending devices, learn the benefits of them. Yes, it takes a few extra seconds to take care of that fish, but you know what? If you want to catch a fish next time, you got to take care of the fish that you're catching now. Any final words, Jeff?
Just like I said, this is something that we really believe in. We're happy to be part of it, and we appreciate Yamaha having us on board with everything.
Thank you. Hope everybody enjoys the show.